Welcome to Deep Thoughts, a podcast designed to take you on an introspective journey into the mindsets and strategies that fuel personal growth. In every episode, we'll explore the intersection of psychology, spirituality, and real-world tactics, guiding you through powerful methods to elevate your health, wealth, relationships, and overall well-being. From deep dives into transformative habits and mindsets to candid discussions about the challenges we face in today's fast-paced world, Deep Thoughts is here to remind you of the untapped potential that lies within. If you're ready to disconnect from the distractions and connect with the tools and insights needed to create lasting change, this show is your sanctuary for self-discovery and empowerment. Tune in, reflect, and take action towards a more vibrant and fulfilling life.
Ever feel like you're working your tail off, but no one's noticing? Like all your effort is just kind of, invisible.
Yeah, I think we've all been there.
So today we're doing a deep dive on that very thing, unseen progress.
It sounds intriguing.
We've got a really interesting mix of sources this time. A blog post about invisible effort at work, another piece that gets a bit more philosophical on the value of the journey itself, and even a parenting article about how this all applies to kids.
Wow, that's quite a range. I'm curious to see how those connect.
Me too. And get this, they all kind of circle back to one powerful idea: mindset.
Okay, now I'm really hooked.
So let's jump right in with that first one, the blog post called Invisible Effort. The author starts with this story, right, about pulling an all-nighter to get a project done. You drag yourself into work exhausted, and your boss just says, try harder next time.
Ugh, that's the worst.
Talk about a total motivation killer, right?
It makes you wonder, what's the point?
I know, right?
Yeah.
And it highlights this idea that effort always equals results. But that's not always how it works, is it?
Right, and the blog digs into why that is. Sometimes it's not even our fault, and that's where the Peter Principle comes in. Ever heard of that?
Vaguely. Refresh my memory.
Basically, it says people often get promoted until they reach a position where they're just not competent anymore. It's like hitting a ceiling.
Ah, I see.
Yeah.
So picture, like, Tim, total tech whiz, amazing with computers.
Got it.
But then he gets promoted to manager, and suddenly he's in over his head. He's trying hard, but it's like all his efforts going nowhere because he doesn't have the skills to manage people.
Makes sense. So how does someone like Tim, or anyone in that spot, even realize they might have hit this incompetent ceiling, and what can they even do about it?
Right. Big questions.
Definitely.
I think it starts with self-awareness. Sometimes it means realizing you need to develop some new skills to really excel in that role.
Right. Or maybe even having an honest talk with your boss about where your strengths actually lie.
That's so true. It's not about admitting defeat. It's about being strategic, playing to your strengths.
Totally. I like that.
Now, the blog also talks about this idea that how we see effort can be totally off.
Oh, interesting.
We tend to overestimate our own effort and underestimate what others are doing, especially, the boss.
Oh, yeah, the classic boss scenario.
Exactly. Like when you're taking a quick break after working hard all morning and your boss walks by giving you that look.
Like you've been slacking off all day.
Totally.
Happens all the time. Really stresses the importance of making your effort visible. Like in a way your boss actually understands.
So true. So how about this? The blog gives some really practical tips, like setting SMART goals. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound.
SMART goals, heard it a million times.
I know, right? But do we actually use them?
Good point. Probably not as much as we should.
Right. So think about a goal you're working towards right now. Could you make it more SMART?
That is a good exercise. Making your goals SMART, it gives your work that traceable trajectory. You're not just getting lost in busy work,
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. Those coffee machine projects that feel like work but don't actually get you anywhere.
The worst.
The absolute worst.
But SMART goals, much better.
So much better. Okay, and then there's this whole self-promotion thing, which I don't know about you, but I used to find a bit icky, like bragging,
I feel you.
But the blog actually reframes it as an art form. Not about bragging, it's about showcasing your value in a smart way.
Okay, I'm listening. How do you walk that line?
Right. It's tricky. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's about communicating your achievements in a way that's genuine, I think. Like highlighting a successful project or sharing positive feedback from a client. It's letting your work speak, but also subtly reminding people what you brought to the table.
That makes a lot of sense. And sometimes making your effort visible also means learning when to say no, right?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It is. The blog uses this funny superhero analogy. Even superheroes need a break. It's about prioritizing, focusing on what matters most. But that's so hard when you're trying to impress your boss or prove yourself.
It is. So how do you push back politely, when you're already swamped?
Right. Any tips?
I think it's about being assertive, but framing your no in a way that benefits the team. Like, hey, I'm at max capacity with X project right now, but I'm happy to jump on Y once that's done. Shows you're a team player, but also sets boundaries.
I love that. It's like, I'm not saying no to you, I'm saying no to more.
Exactly.
Okay, so the blog also makes this point. Sometimes being unseen at work is actually a good thing. Like when you're sneaking in that 3 p.m. power nap.
Ah, the sneaky nap, a classic.
But it brings up something deeper. Effort and achievement aren't only about getting that external validation, you know?
Right, it's about the internal journey, too.
The growth you experience, even if no one else sees it.
That's where our second source comes in.
Yeah.
Unseen progress. Valuing the invisible journey. It really digs into that effort as its own reward, that personal growth matters, even if others don't see it right away.
It's that old saying, it's about the journey, not the destination.
Yeah.
Cheesy, but true.
Totally.
It's like, think of a tiny seed growing into a giant oak tree. You don't see those roots developing underground, but they're essential for that tree to reach its full potential.
That's a great analogy.
Right, and those roots, those are like all the unseen progress we're making.
And those roots, those are like all the unseen progress we're making. But, it's one thing to say, oh, I need a growth mindset. It's another to actually, shift your thinking,
Totally. How do we even do that?
Well, it's a process, for sure, and not a light switch you can just flip on. The key is really understanding that difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. Like, with a fixed mindset, you think your abilities are what's set in stone.
Yeah, you're either good at something or you're not.
Right. And when you hit a challenge, you give up easy, because that voice in your head is like, see, I told you you weren't good at this.
Oh, that voice is the worst.
The absolute worst. But with a growth mindset, you believe you can get better through hard work and learning.
So a challenge isn't a threat, it's an opportunity.
Exactly. It's
Sure.
a chance to expand what you're capable of. You actually embrace the struggle because you know it's part of getting better.
That's what makes it so powerful. You're not ignoring the setbacks, you're using them.
You're learning from them. You're
Yeah.
like, okay, that didn't work. What can I try differently next time?
That reminds me of something from that parenting article, how we can actually teach kids to develop a growth mindset.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
It was all about praising their effort, the process, not just the end result. So instead of saying, wow, you're so smart, you'd say, I'm impressed with how much effort you put into that.
Such a simple shift,
Right.
but it totally changes the focus, right?
Right. It's not about some innate ability. It's about the actions they took to get there.
And honestly, I think we adults need to hear that too sometimes.
Big time. We get so caught up praising talent as if it just magically appears.
Totally. We forget those talents are honed through practice, through effort. If we praise the effort, we're saying anyone can improve if they put in the work.
I like that. So next time your boss gives you feedback, instead of getting all defensive, maybe try asking, okay, what can I do differently next time to make this even better?
Boom. Growth mindset in action. You're showing that willingness to learn and improve.
And, it connects back to the blog post, that whole effective communication thing.
All right.
If you've got that growth mindset, you're more likely to seek out feedback, work with others, be open to different ideas.
You're not threatened by it. You're actually looking for ways to grow from it.
Exactly. And that can actually make your efforts more visible to others.
It's like a feedback loop. Mindset, actions, perception, it's all connected.
It's like this ripple effect, where a growth mindset can actually help others see and appreciate your hard work.
Exactly. But it's not just about impressing other people either. A growth mindset gives you this, deep personal satisfaction.
Because you're constantly learning, growing, becoming a better version of yourself.
Right. It's like, think about that feeling you get when you finally master a new skill or solve a problem that's been bugging you.
Oh, that's the best feeling.
It is. Those aha moments, those breakthroughs, they're often invisible to everyone else. But man, they feel good.
That brings us back to that unseen progress piece. It's all about those small wins, those subtle shifts that often go unnoticed.
They matter.
They absolutely do, because they add up to something bigger. They build resilience, adaptability, all those skills we need to deal with life's ups and downs.
Think of it like each small win is a brick. You might not see the whole house for a while, but each brick is crucial to the finished product.
That's a good one. And sometimes those small wins are what keep us going when we're feeling burnt out, discouraged. They remind us that we are making progress.
They're like those little energizers, like keep going, you're on the right track.
Totally. And it makes me think of those kids from that Kent Test tutoring story, remember? They were making amazing progress, but they didn't even realize it. It wasn't until they looked back and compared where they started to where they ended up that it really hit them.
And that's why it's so important to take a step back sometimes and reflect.
Just acknowledge how far you've come, celebrate those victories, even if they seem small.
Because that recognition, that feeling of accomplishment, it's powerful stuff.
It keeps you motivated, keeps you going.
It's about tapping into that inner drive, that motivation that comes from knowing you're growing, evolving, even if the results aren't screaming at you from a billboard.
It's like, it's your progress, you own it.
Exactly. And you know what else is powerful? Gratitude. That unseen progress article talked a lot about that too.
Oh, right. Appreciating the progress you are making, even when it's tough.
Even when it feels like you're stuck. It's about recognizing how far you've come, how much effort you're putting in.
Because sometimes we get so focused on what we haven't achieved, we forget to appreciate what we have.
It's like we're always looking ahead instead of taking a moment to celebrate the steps we've already taken.
So true. And that can make all the difference in how we feel about our progress, right?
Huge difference. It's about finding joy in the journey, not just fixating on the destination.
So instead of stressing about the finish line, appreciate the scenery along the way.
Exactly. Soak it all in. And that's where mindfulness comes in, being present in the moment, noticing those small things.
Taking time to really taste your coffee instead of just gulping it down on the way out the door.
Exactly. Finding those little sparks of joy that make the journey worthwhile.
It's like appreciating those tiny roots growing underground, even if no one else sees them.
And knowing that those tiny roots are what's going to support that big, beautiful tree someday. It's about trusting the process.
It reminds me of the parenting article and how they talked about helping kids become powerful learners. It's not just about acing tests or getting good grades. It's about developing that love of learning, that curiosity, that drive to keep growing.
It's about giving them the tools to become lifelong learners, to face challenges head on, to find joy in discovering new things.
And those are skills that'll benefit them no matter what they do in life, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Way beyond just school. Okay, but we've been talking a lot about the positives, the good vibes.
It has been pretty upbeat.
It has. But let's be real. Sometimes life throws some serious curveballs.
Right, those moments when it's hard to see the good.
Exactly. We're talking tough stuff. A toxic work environment, money problems, relationship issues, things that make it feel impossible to even think about growth.
So how does a growth mindset help us in those situations?
That's the million-dollar question. And honestly, it's not a magic wand. It doesn't make the problems vanish.
Right, that would be too easy.
Way too easy. But it gives you a different way to approach those challenges, with more resilience, more resourcefulness.
So it's not ignoring the hard stuff, but kind of shifting how we see it.
Exactly. Instead of why me, it's what can I learn from this?
Finding that silver lining, even when it's stormy.
And remembering you have a choice. You can be a victim or you can be empowered by the situation.
So instead of feeling helpless, we can use that energy to find solutions, make things better.
That's the power. It gives you agency. It reminds you that you have control even when things are tough.
So it's not just thinking positive, it's actually doing something about it.
Right. Putting in the work, learning from mistakes, always trying to be better.
Man, this whole conversation has been like a pep talk for the soul.
It has been pretty inspiring, hasn't it? We've covered a lot of ground, effort, progress, that growth mindset.
I feel like I have this whole new toolkit for dealing with challenges, reaching my goals.
That's awesome. And the key thing to remember is that progress is happening, even when we can't see it. It's about trusting the journey, celebrating the small wins, and believing in ourselves.
And that's a message I think we all need to hear sometimes, especially when we're feeling lost or down.
It's a good reminder that we're not alone. We all face those tough times, those setbacks, but we can learn and grow from them.
Beautifully said. And I think this leads perfectly into the final part of our deep dive.
We're going to leave you with one last thought-provoking question.
Something to really make you think about the power of unseen progress in your life. So stick around, we'll be right back.
Okay, we're back, and I gotta say, this whole deep dive has really got me thinking about all the ways I'm probably growing without even realizing it.
That's exactly it. That invisible journey, all that progress happening beneath the surface. We want you to walk away from this with a better sense of how that's working in your life too. So, to wrap things up, we've got one last thought-provoking question for you. It's inspired by that piece, Unseen Progress, Valuing the Invisible Journey. Ready for it?
Yeah, me with it.
Think about one area of your life, just one, Could be anything. Work, relationships, a skill you're learning, where you are making progress, even if it's not obvious yet.
Yeah, those small wins, those little shifts. What are you overlooking?
It's like when you're learning guitar, you're like, ugh, I suck. But then you look back a few months later and hey, you're actually playing some chords. It's those moments of reflection that really show you, oh, wow, progress was happening.
It's those small steps, those little efforts that build up to the big stuff. You don't build a house all at once, right?
Lay one brick at a time.
Exactly. Might not see the whole structure for a while, but each brick matters.
It's like those kids in that Kent test tutoring story. They were getting so much better, but they didn't even know it. It wasn't until they compared their performance to where they started that they saw how far they'd come.
So take a minute, reflect. Give yourself credit for those small victories, even if no one else is throwing you a parade for it.
Because, let's be honest, that recognition feels good.
Right.
It's motivating.
It keeps you going.
Keeps those fires burning. It's like, it's your progress. No one can take that away from you.
And when you combine that with the stuff we talked about earlier, making those efforts visible to others, clear communication, smart goals, finding ways to let your work shine through.
That's when the magic happens.
It really is.
Yeah.
Finding that balance between seeing your own progress and making sure others see it too. That's how you unlock the real power of all that unseen effort.
This whole deep dive, man, it's been amazing.
I've enjoyed it.
I feel like I've got this whole new outlook on effort, progress, and that whole growth mindset thing. It's inspiring, you know.
I hope so. That's what we're going for.
Definitely. And I'm ready to take action, make some of my unseen progress a little more visible too.
That's the spirit. Just remember, the journey is just as important as the destination. So enjoy the ride, celebrate those small wins, and keep moving forward.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So, that's it for our deep dive into unseen progress. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep believing in the power of all those little steps you're taking, even the ones no one else sees.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Deep Thoughts Podcast. I hope you found insights and inspiration to take with you on your journey of self-growth. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And don't forget to follow us on social media to stay updated on new releases and exclusive content. See you next time, where we'll continue to help you grow and explore your full potential.